It blends so smoothly and nicely. Yes, honey, yes. And we love it. Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Destiny here. So today's video is going to focus on the difference between setting, baking, and finishing powders. So just moving directly into the video, I'm going to start out with a translucent setting powder. Personally, I like to use a translucent setting powder because I feel like it not only takes your cream foundation to a powder finish, but with that being the last layer as a setting powder, I feel like it cuts down on transference. The setting powder that I'm going to use is Dermablend. I have Warm Saffron for those of you who may be this tone. For this one, I use this as my baking powder. Baking and setting powders can be used for the same objective, but it's just a different technique. Setting is all over. Baking is very precise. It's under your eyes, it's around your mouth, in your jaw area, etc. So right now what I'm going to do is go in with my translucent setting powder from Dermablend. And me personally, I don't want a hard set. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of applying it like a finishing powder. Finishing powder is something like IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores. And what that does is it applies a finish to your foundation. Bye Bye Pores helps to eliminate the look of harsh pores, fine lines, and different things like that. So most of the time with setting powders, you take it on a big fluffy puff and you just apply it all over your face. You can let it set and then brush it away, kind of as in a baking kind of technique. But because I don't want a hard bake, because I don't want a hard set, I'm just applying it like a finishing powder. The reason I don't want a hard set is because the foundation and primer I used are both aiming toward matte finish. If I have a matte foundation and a matte primer and I do a hard set, my face might look a little dry. So I'm just going in with a soft set. As you guys can see, I set my foundation. That's turning your liquid to a powder. And now you can use powder products. You can do contour, you can do highlight. If you don't set your foundation and you go in to do other powder treatments, it might get patchy, it might get a little stuck. So you want to close off that liquid to powder. So now it's time for powder products. So now that I've done my setting, I'm gonna go in and do my baking, and then we're gonna do a finishing powder. So for my baking, I am gonna use the Dermablend Warm Saffron, and I'm gonna change my brush. Baking is pretty much to go in and set your highlights mostly. Well, it's highlight and contour, but right now I'm baking my highlights. It's just to kind of give off a little bit extra finish, sometimes extra coverage. Sometimes people bake because they really want their T-zone very matte. Generally, if you have oily skin, it's your T-zone that's really oily. So this not only helps to make your makeup last longer, but it looks really, really elegant and matte, and it holds down all the shine. You really can't see extra large pores and all that stuff, honey. So I'm just gonna go in and very precisely, I'm gonna add it, this particular color, to the areas that I highlighted. Now, some people like to use a triangle sponge to set. You can use a brush, you can use a powder puff, you can use a beauty blender or something like that. I'm simply just gonna go in with this brush. I don't generally let my chin area bake too long because I don't want it to stand out too much. Just gonna apply a tiny bit up there. Another thing when you're baking, a lot of people ask about fine lines and wrinkles and stuff like that. So you're gonna wanna make sure that it gets all the way into those fine lines and wrinkles. So you're gonna wanna kind of pull your face, just making sure everything gets into those fine lines and wrinkles. That is a technique that I learned from the Sam Fine book, okay? So now we've baked. You can do a more intense bake, you can do a more layered bake. I personally don't like my face to look too powdery once it's done. You can definitely add a setting spray to kind of bring your face back down to Mars once you have done everything, but I just try not to OD in the first place and we're good. So from baking, we're gonna go in and we're gonna do our contour now. So now I'm going to go in and do my contour, and basically I'm just going to go in with a pressed powder. It's a cool pressed powder, and it is a few shades darker than my skin tone. I use 560 Cool from Lancome. Fashion Fair makes a lot of really dark tones. AJ Crimson. There are a few brands out there. I will try to have some information in the bottom bar. I'm just going to take my brush, swirl it, and I'm just going to come in and do my contour. This is just to add shade, contour to your face, bring back the dark edges, different things like that. It also helps to recede features. So if you want it to kind of set back, just like if you were going to do it in your crease and you wanted your crease to set back, I want this area underneath my cheekbone to set back so my cheekbones pop out. That is what contour does. Going in on the sides of my forehead and along the top a little bit, just to add some shape and some shadow so my forehead doesn't look wide and flat. And it's going to take it very naturally down the sides of my nose. So now, even though I didn't do a super heavy bake, I am going to go in with my brush with a tiny bit of powder on it, and I'm going to brush whatever excess might be left away. And I took a little bit of powder just because it helps to blend the edges. If there are any lines of demarcation or anything like that, it's really going to help, and it's going to blend it out. As you guys can see, it's very natural, it's very blended, it's not too powdery, it's not too shiny. Sometimes when your makeup is very shiny, it points out and highlights imperfections. So a matte face can be bae. So we baked, we set, we contoured, or we set, we baked, and we contoured. Now we're gonna go in and do finishing powder. I really feel like finishing powder is the most confused product. I see a lot of people use finishing powder as a setting powder. You can do that, but generally finishing powders are more expensive because they have more properties that are beneficial, such as light reflection, diffusing pores, helps with fine lines and wrinkles, different things like that. So don't use your don't use your finishing powder as a setting powder. Alright guys, so I have to say that IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores as well as Makeup Forever HD powder have to be some of my favorite finishing powders. Like I said, finishing powders add that final step. Now I don't even really feel like I super duper need a finishing powder right now because Dermablend powder has not only setting properties, but it makes your skin look like silk. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores, and I'm just gonna sweep that all over my T-zone, through my forehead, fine lines, around my chin, and I'm just gonna sweep it in a downward motion. And this is like a silk veil over your face. It's gonna help to smooth out any pores, anything, fine lined wrinkles around your eyes. It is a very smoothing powder. It's gonna help the light to bounce off your face more evenly. It's gonna help other products lay up there more smoothly. It's definitely one of my favorite steps. Finishing powders also look good without foundation because it just goes in and it just smooths everything out. It's like the active ingredient in a lot of pore filling and pore smoothing primers. So there you go. What I like to do sometimes, most of the times, is after I've done everything, I go in with a little bit more contour because cheekbones are bae, and I'm just gonna sweep up tiny bit more. And once you have that finishing powder up there, oh my god, it blends so smoothly and nicely. Yes, honey, yes. And we love it, okay? Some of my other favorite finishing powders come from Bobbi Brown. Bobbi Brown makes a couple of finishing powders that have a little bit of a tone to it. So if you do want a little bit more coverage, or if you do feel like your setting powder made you look a little ashy, then a finishing powder with a little bit of pigment in it or a little bit of coverage might be something that you're looking for. So to finish off my complete foundation look, I am going to go in and set my foundation with a setting spray. It's so cold. I never look cute when I use the setting spray. Everyone else be like, I'm like, I'm the kind of person, like, I want you to roll up on me and you like literally have to beg me, do you have on makeup or not? Do you have on makeup, bitch? Do you have on makeup or not? Are you? Yeah. When you come around me, you're gonna be like, I don't like to give anything away. Like I've taken on this very minimal makeup deal. Just drawing in light hair strokes. Like sometimes I'll be hanging out and I forget whether or not I have on makeup, and I have to, like, I'll be sitting there and I'm like, oh shit, do I have on makeup? And like, I'm like, I can't even tell, you know? Alright guys, so that was pretty much it for the tutorial. I hope you have a clearer understanding of baking, setting, and finishing powders. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the bottom bar. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Make sure that you subscribe before you leave. And if you're not, thank you so much for your support. As always guys, I want to thank you so much for commenting, rating, and subscribing. I'll be in touch and hopefully you'll do the same. Bye guys.